this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Presenting petitions. The Honourable Member from St. Albert, Edmonton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present a petition signed by Canadians. As it stands, convicted murderers are eligible to apply for parole annually after serving their minimum sentence. The petitioners observe that such frequent parole hearings re-traumatize the families of murder victims. The bill that the petitioners are urging Parliament to pass is Bill S-281, known as Brian's Bill, named in honour of Brian Olisic, who was murdered at the University of Alberta. He and 3 of his colleagues were shot point blank in the back of the head. The bill would amend the Corrections and Conditional Release Act such that convicted murderers would only be eligible to apply at the time of their automatic review.
The Honourable Member from... Coastal, it's the first word that I always remember. Coastal Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm honored to present a petition in this House today to expand the food fishery for cod in Newfoundland and Labrador so that it'll allow for the retention of codfish on every day from July 1st to October 1st of each year. The petition had 3,945 people who signed it. And those and also the sponsor of the petition, Mr. Graham Wood of Lewisport, call on the Minister of Fisheries to announce the dates and regulations for the food fishery by May 1st every year instead of near the end of June, as been the NDP Liberal tradition. The 3-day weekend food fishery, Mr. Speaker, represents a safety issue for those who take part. And it also puts extra strain on DFO conservation and protection resources, as well as the 103 Rescue Squadron in Gander. We feel, or the folks who signed this petition feel that it'll lead to less pressure on the codfish resource and less cod taken, because it takes away the rush. Everyone wants to get out on those 3-day weekends. Now people will procrastinate and they'll wait and wait and wait, and they'll put it off, which will lead to less fish being taken. The FFAW opposed the petition because they think it'll lead to more fish being taken, but the FFAW has bigger fish to fry, and I have their back, and I'll support them in many ways.
Just try to remind members that when they're presenting petitions, they shouldn't indicate whether or not they're for or against, just to present the petition. They're not to present a for or against or express an opinion on the petition.
So this is a common sense petition, which I support.
Again, I just indicated to the Honourable Member from Coastal Bay, Central Notre Dame, that you shouldn't be making a reference on this. So I'll ask the Honourable Member to wrap up very quickly, and then so there are a number of other petitions that need to be presented today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for straightening me out and for the opportunity to present this petition on behalf of the nearly 4,000 people of Newfoundland and Labrador that signed it in 30 days. Thank you.
Here, here. Thank the Honourable Member. The Honourable Member from Peace River, Westlaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's my privilege to rise today to present a petition from Canadians from across the country, including many of my own constituents who are concerned about the consent and age verification of those depicted in pornographic material. The petitioners ask for the government to follow recommendation number 2 of the 2021 Standing Committee on Access to Information Privacy and Ethics report on MindGeek, which requires that all content hosting platforms in Canada verify age and consent prior to uploading content on a commercial on platforms that operate on a commercial basis. Bill C-270, the Stopping Internet Sexual Exploitation Act, adds 2 offenses to the criminal code. The first requires age verification and consent prior to distribution, and the second requires the removal of that material if consent is withdrawn. As such, the petitioners are calling on the quick passage of Bill C-270, the Stopping Internet Sexual Exploitation Act.
You support it, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Honourable Member from Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise today to table a petition to the Government of Canada where the petitioners recognize that although it has been many years since the first use of nuclear weapons have demonstrated their awesome powers, we remain today under the constant threat of warfare that could result in devastation from which the world will never recover. The petitioners also recognize that the Government of Canada has published statements saying we are committed to achieving a world free of nuclear weapons. They recognize that Canada, as a member of the UN Conference on Disarmament and the Stockholm Initiative for Nuclear Disarmament, has an obligation to promote internationally the elimination of nuclear weapons. They also recognize that the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons has been signed by 86 countries and ratified by 66, but not by Canada. And they also recognize, finally, Mr. Speaker, that as a non-nuclear state, Canada is in the best position to comply with the articles of the TPNW and to guide its allies and other nations towards a world free from nuclear weapons. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, these petitioners call on the Government of Canada to sign and commit to ratifying the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons and to urge allies and other nations to follow suit. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Speaker, I'd like to present two petitions this morning, so I'll do so as quickly as possible. They're both of critical concern to members of my constituency. I had the honour to host 12 community meetings recently in different parts of the riding. There wasn't a single meeting where the issue of the crisis of access to family doctors wasn't raised. So I put forward this petition, Mr. Speaker. Petitioners note that, according to Statistics Canada, approximately 4.8 million Canadians do not have a regular doctor, that 92% of physicians are working in urban centres and just 8% in rural areas, that in Victoria and Sydney, BC, within Saanich Gulf Islands, average wait times for a walk-in clinic are 92 and 180 minutes, respectively. The petitioners call on the government to work with the provinces and territories to come to a holistic and fair solution to deal with the family doctor healthcare provider shortage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Moving to my second petition, which deals with the critical habitat requirements of the rare and threatened bird, the marbled murrelet. This bird nests in the roots of old-growth forests. That's the only place where it is found, although it spends most of its lifetime out on the open ocean. The petitioners are calling for the Government of Canada to immediately protect all of the critical old-growth habitat that is that's totally needed by the marbled murrelets, and that recognizing that this habitat is also protected under the Migratory Birds Convention Act, to which Canada is a signatory. This matter is urgent. The number of birds is down to precious few. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And before I continue with petitions, I'd just like to inform members that we have a fair number of people who would like to present petitions. I'm going to ask them to be quite brief because I know people would like to get this in before the Easter break. The Honourable Member from Ottawa Centre.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I'm bringing forward this petition on behalf of my constituency in Ottawa Centre. It recognizes that there is a grave humanitarian crisis that's taking place in Gaza because of the war that's taking place there. It acknowledges that Canada is recognized for its historical leadership in humanitarian actions in the global community. It also recognizes the fact that Canada really stepped forward in helping Ukrainians to come on a temporary basis to Canada to flee from the war, and asking similar action in order to extend the same special immigration measures that were granted to Ukrainian nationals to Palestinians also, and to allow Palestinians in Gaza to apply for the special immigration measure so that they can be able to come here and work while the war comes to an end in Gaza. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Fleetwood, Port Kells.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two certified petitions pursuant to Standing Order 36. The first recognizes long wait times and inconsistent standards of service delivery, which have a significant negative impact on the physical and mental well-being of Canadian Armed Forces veterans and current and former members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And the petitioners ask that the Minister of Veterans Affairs commit to remedying the situation that has been allowed to exist for too long. The second petition that I have harmonizes with the work that was done at the Fisheries and Oceans Standing Committee, and basically the undersigned citizens of Canada call on the Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard to immediately prohibit any transfer of commercial fishing licenses and quotas to foreign interests or beneficial owners who are not Canadian. Thank you.
Honourable member from Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be brief. I have three petitions. The first is with respect to environmentalists from throughout the country who are calling upon the Government of Canada to move forward immediately with bold emissions caps for the oil and gas sector that are comprehensive in scope and realistic in achieving our targets as set out for 2030. The second petition that I have is a petition from my community, in particular residents of the Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox and Addington region, who are calling upon the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development and the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food to prioritize a national school food program through Budget 2024 for the implementation of the fall of 2024. And they specifically draw to the attention of the government that Canada is the only G7 country without a national school food program. And finally, the third petition I have, Mr. Speaker, comes from, actually, the majority of the residents are from the riding to the north of me, Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston. These are residents who are drawing to the attention of the fact that at a federal institution, the Joyceville Institution, the abattoir has been closed for about 2 years. They indicate that beef farmers are now waiting up to 6 to 9 months, in many cases, up to a year to advance to have their cattle processed at this facility or at other facilities. The abattoir located at Joyceville Institution on Highway 15 in Ontario closed in September of 2022, and the closure has put even more strain on processing abattoirs, negatively impacting the process for wait times. And they also highlight the negative economic impacts as a result of this abattoir closing. Therefore, they're calling upon the Government of Canada to explore all options to ensure the abattoir located at Joyceville Institution is reopened to address the issues noted above. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.